screen-used Stormtrooper armor from Star Wars: A New Hope. This is a full original Stormtrooper suit, worn during the filming of Star Wars: A New Hope in 1976. It is not a replica, not a later promotional costume, and not a partial assembly. This is the complete armor as it appeared on screen during the opening scenes of the very first Star Wars film, worn by an extra during the Empire's boarding of the Rebel blockade runner. The design originates from the concept art of Ralph McQuarrie and was physically realized by costume designer John Mallow, whose work on Star Wars later earned him an Academy Award. The armor is constructed from vacuum-formed white plastic plates assembled using elastic strapping, rivets, and hand-cut components. These suits were produced quickly and cheaply to meet filming demands and were never intended to survive beyond production, which is why intact examples are extremely rare today. What sets this specific suit apart is its condition and documented history. It came from the personal collection of Greg Jean, a highly respected model maker and visual effects artist who worked on numerous major film productions. After his death in 2022, his collection of more than 500 film artifacts was brought to auction, drawing intense interest from collectors and historians. Experts authenticated this armor through detailed screen matching, scratches, stress cracks, blaster scorch marks, and wear patterns were compared directly against footage from the film's opening sequence. These visual markers aligned perfectly, confirming that this exact suit was worn on set and appears on screen. Screen matching of this level provides the strongest possible verification for film-used costumes. Crucially, this armor is regarded as the most complete and best-preserved Stormtrooper outfit known to survive from the original film. Many other examples are missing components, heavily restored, or assembled from multiple sources. This suit retained its original helmet, chest and back plates, limb armor, belt, holster, boots, knee plates, and internal strapping, all in unusually clean condition for a costume worn under hot studio lights during long shooting days. When it went under the hammer, collectors recognized its significance immediately. The armor sold for $645,000 US. Chewbacca's screen-used bowcaster from the original Star Wars trilogy. This is the original bowcaster weapon used by Chewbacca across the original Star Wars trilogy. It is not a replica, a background prop, or a later recreation. This is the single screen-used weapon carried by Peter Mayhew during filming, making it the only known authentic Chewbacca bowcaster to survive from the original productions. The bowcaster began life as a real Horton Magnum crossbow manufactured in Wales. The Star Wars prop department heavily modified it, adding a scope, metal plating, wiring, and layered surface details known as greeblies. These additions transformed a conventional crossbow into a futuristic hybrid weapon that visually blended ancient mechanics with advanced technology, perfectly matching Chewbacca's character and the lived-in aesthetic of the Star Wars universe. What makes this bowcaster especially important is that no duplicates were produced for the films. Unlike blasters or armor, which were made in multiples, evidence indicates that only one bowcaster was ever constructed for Chewbacca. Scratches, wear marks, and surface details visible on the prop were matched directly to stills and footage from all three original trilogy films, confirming that this single weapon was used throughout Chewbacca's on-screen appearances. The bowcaster allowed for limited on-screen firing effects, but it was primarily a visual prop rather than a functional weapon. Despite being fired only a handful of times on screen, it became one of the most recognizable weapons in the franchise due to its unique silhouette and association with one of Star Wars' most beloved characters. Its rarity is absolute, as no second authentic example has ever surfaced. Ownership history further strengthens its significance. The bowcaster remained in private hands for decades before being brought to auction, where it underwent extensive expert authentication. Specialists confirmed its construction materials, modifications, and screen-matching characteristics, establishing it as the definitive Chewbacca bowcaster and not a later production or promotional piece. When it went to auction, collectors immediately recognized that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to acquire a truly singular Star Wars artifact. The bowcaster sold for $768,600 C3PO screen used head from Star Wars: A New Hope. This is the original C3PO head used during the filming of Star Wars: A New Hope. It is not a spare, a background casting, or a later replacement. This is the actual head worn on screen by Anthony Daniels in the 1977 film, making it one of the most instantly recognizable character components in cinema history. The design of C3PO originated from Ralph McQuarrie's concept art, which itself drew inspiration from the Machine and Mensch robot in Metropolis. That two-dimensional artwork was translated into physical form by sculptor Liz Moore, who created a clay bust based on Anthony Daniels' facial structure. This sculpt was then used to form the final mask and helmet assembly. The head was finished in gold plating to create the reflective mechanical appearance that defined the character. Unlike many props, C3PO's head was not a rigid display piece. It was worn directly by the actor, meaning it had to accommodate movement, visibility, ventilation, and lighting elements. The interior housed original bulbs and wiring that illuminated the eyes, while the exterior surface picked up minor scratches, dents, and wear during filming. These imperfections later became crucial identifiers for authentication. This specific head was retained by Anthony Daniels after production and remained in his personal possession for decades. Its authenticity was confirmed through screen matching, with experts comparing surface marks and damage to specific scenes in the film. One identifiable feature includes damage applied for scenes in which C3PO is attacked by Tusken Raiders, making it possible to trace this exact head to particular moments on screen. The rarity of this piece cannot be overstated. While multiple components of the C3PO costume existed, complete screen-used heads from the original film almost never enter the market, especially with uninterrupted ownership history directly linking the prop to the actor who wore it. This direct provenance removes uncertainty and significantly elevates its historical importance. When the head was finally offered at auction, collectors recognized it as one of the most important character props from the original trilogy. It sold for $838,750. C3PO's screen-used head from Return of the Jedi. This is a second original C3PO head worn by Anthony Daniels during the filming of Return of the Jedi. It is not a duplicate of the earlier head from A New Hope, nor a backup or display piece. This is a distinct screen-used helmet created for later production, specifically used during scenes set on Endor, making it a separate and equally authentic artifact from the original trilogy. By the time Return of the Jedi entered production, the C3PO costume had evolved slightly to improve durability and comfort, but the overall design language remained faithful to the original. The head retained its gold-plated exterior, human facial proportions, and illuminated eyes, maintaining continuity with earlier appearances. Internally, it still housed practical lighting components and wiring, all of which were designed to function during filming rather than for long-term preservation. This head displays its own unique wear patterns and surface details which distinguish it from earlier versions. Minor scratches, scuffs, and aging in the finish accumulated through active use on set. These marks were later compared against high-resolution reference images from Return of the Jedi, allowing experts to screen match the helmet to specific scenes filmed on location and on sound stages. Like the earlier head, this piece remained in the personal possession of Anthony Daniels after production concluded. Its uninterrupted ownership history provides a rare level of certainty, directly linking the artifact to the actor and the film in which it was used. When previewed publicly ahead of auction, the head was shown to still contain its original internal lighting elements, which remained functional decades after filming. The significance of this head lies in the fact that it represents C3PO at the conclusion of the original trilogy. It is tied to the final chapter of the story that defined Star Wars for generations, giving it strong emotional and historical weight for collectors. While visually similar to earlier versions, its distinct production history makes it a separate and important piece of Star Wars history. When it was offered at auction, bidding pushed it slightly beyond the earlier C3PO head. the helmet sold for $843,750 US. Han Solo's screen-used blaster from Star Wars: A New Hope. This is the original blaster carried by Han Solo during the filming of Star Wars: A New Hope. It is not a stunt copy, a background prop, or a later recreation. This is the primary hero blaster used on screen by Harrison Ford, making it one of the most iconic weapons in film history. The blaster began as a real Mauser C96 semi-automatic pistol, a German firearm manufactured in the early 20th century. The Star Wars prop department modified the weapon by adding a custom scope, muzzle attachment, and various surface details to give it a futuristic appearance. These additions transformed a recognizable historical firearm into a believable sci-fi weapon while retaining enough mechanical realism to feel grounded and functional on screen. What makes this blaster especially significant is how closely it is tied to Han Solo as a character. It appears repeatedly throughout the film and is central to several of the most memorable moments in the story. The blaster's distinct silhouette became inseparable from Han Solo's identity as a smuggler and gunslinger, influencing countless replicas, costumes, and pop culture references for decades. Authentication of the blaster involved detailed analysis of wear patterns, machining marks, and modifications. Scratches, edge wear, and specific placement of the scope and muzzle were matched directly to high-resolution film stills. These characteristics confirmed that this was not only a production-made prop, but the exact blaster seen on screen during key scenes. After filming concluded, the blaster remained out of public view for many years before resurfacing and being prepared for auction. Its rarity is heightened by the fact that many Star Wars blasters were either modified, dismantled, or lost over time, and very few hero weapons from the original film survive in identifiable screen-matched condition. When it was finally offered at auction, expectations were high, but bidding quickly exceeded all estimates. The blaster became the first Star Wars prop to cross the 1 million mark, selling for $1,057,500 US. Darth Vader's screen-used helmet from The Empire Strikes Back. This is the original Darth Vader helmet worn during the filming of The Empire Strikes Back. It is not a display casting, a promotional replica, or a later reconstruction. This is the actual helmet used on set as part of the full Darth Vader costume, making it one of the most iconic character pieces in cinema history. The design of Darth Vader was first established through concept art by Ralph McQuarrie and then sculpted into physical form by the production team at Elstree Studios. The helmet was constructed from fiberglass and finished in glossy black, designed to project menace, authority, and mechanical precision. It was built as a functional costume element, engineered to be worn by the actor while allowing for visibility, movement, and lighting control during filming. This helmet was used specifically during The Empire Strikes Back, widely regarded as the most influential and visually refined film in the original trilogy. During production, the helmet endured regular wear from long shooting days, resulting in subtle surface imperfections, edge wear, and finish variations. These details later became critical identifiers when the helmet was authenticated. After filming concluded, the helmet passed into private ownership and remained out of public view for decades. Unlike many surviving Vader helmets, which are often composites or later production pieces, this example retained its original construction and finish. Experts authenticated it through a combination of material analysis and screen matching, comparing its contours, paint characteristics, and wear patterns to reference imagery from the film. The historical importance of this helmet lies in its association with Darth Vader at the height of the character's cultural impact. The Empire Strikes Back cemented Vader as one of the greatest villains in film history, and the helmet became the defining visual symbol of that legacy. Very few character props carry the same level of recognition or emotional weight. When the helmet was brought to auction, it immediately drew global attention from collectors. Bidding quickly surpassed expectations, and the helmet sold for $1,152,000 US. Prototype rocket-firing Boba Fett action figure. This is the original prototype Boba Fett action figure created by Kenner in the late 1970s. designed with a spring-loaded rocket that could fire from the figure's jetpack. It is not a retail release, not a reproduction, and not a later sample. This is one of the very small number of pre-production prototypes made before the design was permanently canceled, making it the rarest Star Wars action figure ever produced. The figure was developed in anticipation of The Empire Strikes Back, at a time when Boba Fett was being introduced as a mysterious new character. Kenner's original design featured a firing missile mechanism activated by a latch on the back of the figure. Internally, the spring-loaded system allowed the rocket to eject with force, a feature intended to make the toy more interactive and appealing to children. Before the figure could be released to the public, safety concerns emerged across the toy industry following a fatal choking incident involving a missile-firing toy from another brand. As a result, Kenner was ordered to eliminate all projectile-launching mechanisms from its figures. The company halted production and instructed that the rocket-firing Boba Fett prototypes be destroyed. Almost all were eliminated. This specific example survived because it was quietly retained by a Kenner employee who stored it away with its original mail-away packaging and paperwork. It remained untouched for decades, preserved in near-perfect condition. Over time, stories about the rocket-firing Boba Fett prototype became legendary among collectors, with many doubting whether a genuine example still existed at all. The figure's importance is amplified by Boba Fett's unexpected rise in popularity. Despite minimal screen time and very few lines of dialogue, the character became one of the most iconic figures in the Star Wars universe. That cultural impact transformed this canceled toy prototype into a mythical object within the collecting world. When the figure finally surfaced publicly and was offered at auction, bidding escalated immediately. Collectors recognized that this was not just a rare Star Wars item, but the most valuable vintage toy ever sold. The prototype rocket-firing Boba Fett figure sold for $1,342,000 US. Gold Leader's screen-used Y-Wing miniature from Star Wars: A New Hope. This is the original Y-Wing miniature used to represent Gold Leader's starfighter during the Death Star trench run in Star Wars: A New Hope. It is not a replica, a background model, or a later display build. This is a production-used filming miniature constructed and photographed by industrial light and magic for the climactic space battle that concludes the film. The Y-Wing's design originated from concept paintings that emphasized a rugged, stripped-down military look, contrasting with the sleeker X-Wings. To achieve this on screen, the model makers built the miniature using a complex framework of kit-bashed parts sourced from commercial model kits, electronic components, and hand-fabricated elements. Every surface was layered with mechanical detail to hold up under close-up photography, giving the ship its distinctive exposed machinery appearance. Only a small number of Y-Wing miniatures were ever produced, and even fewer survived beyond production. These models were fragile, frequently damaged during filming, and often dismantled or discarded once their usefulness ended. This particular miniature was used for close-up shots, meaning it carries a much higher level of surface detail than background models and was designed to be seen clearly on screen. Authentication was achieved by comparing the miniature's paint patterns, weathering, panel lines, and placement of individual components against original film frames and production reference imagery. These details matched precisely, confirming that this was the Gold Leader Y-Wing seen during the Death Star attack sequence. Screen matching at this level firmly establishes it as a hero miniature rather than a secondary or reused asset. Ownership history further strengthens its importance. The model remained in private hands for decades before resurfacing, preserved as a rare survivor of the original effects work that defined modern cinematic space battles. Its significance lies not only in its rarity, but in its role in one of the most iconic action sequences in film history. When it went to auction, collectors recognized the miniature as a cornerstone artifact of Star Wars visual effects history. The Gold Leader Y-Wing sold for $1,550,000 US. R2-D2, assembled from screen-used components across the saga. This is an original R2-D2 unit assembled from authentic screen-used components that appeared across multiple Star Wars films. It is not a replica droid, a fan-built unit, or a single production costume. This is a composite astromech constructed entirely from genuine filming parts, making it the most authentic R2-D2 ever to reach the public market. At its core is an original aluminum R2-D2 dome fabricated for Star Wars: A New Hope and used by Kenny Baker during production. This dome is the most critical component of the droid, defining its shape, proportions, and character presence. It is also the only known original aluminum dome from the first film to exist in private hands. Unlike later fiberglass domes, this version reflects the earliest and most hands-on phase of Star Wars production. The rest of the unit is composed of verified screen-used parts drawn from later films in the saga. The legs originate from The Empire Strikes Back, while additional body components come from The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. These parts were originally built for filming, subjected to studio use, and later authenticated through construction techniques, materials, and wear patterns consistent with known production methods. Because R2-D2 was portrayed using multiple physical units across different films, no single intact droid survived production in original configuration. This makes the assembly of a complete unit from genuine components exceptionally rare. Rather than diminishing its value, the multi-film composition enhances it, as the droid physically represents the evolution of R2-D2 across the Star Wars timeline. Authentication focused on material analysis, internal construction, and historical documentation tying each component to specific productions. The result was a fully verified droid composed entirely of original filming elements, with no modern replica parts substituted. At the time it was offered for sale, it was widely regarded as the most screen-accurate and historically significant R2-D2 unit ever presented to collectors. When the droid went under the hammer, bidders recognized that no comparable example was likely to appear again. The R2-D2 unit sold for $2,760,000 US. Screen-used Hero X-Wing miniature from Star Wars: A New Hope. This is an original hero-scale X-Wing miniature used during the filming of Star Wars: A New Hope. It is not a background model, a later reconstruction, or a display replica. This is one of the close-up filming miniatures built by Industrial Light and Magic specifically for detailed shots during the Death Star battle, making it one of the most important spacecraft artifacts from the original trilogy. Hero miniatures were constructed to withstand intense scrutiny from the camera. Unlike smaller or background models, these versions were larger, heavier, and covered in extremely fine surface detail so they would appear realistic during close-up passes. The model was built using a combination of custom fabricated components and kit-bashed parts sourced from commercial model kits, carefully layered to create the illusion of a fully functional combat starfighter. For decades, collectors and effects historians believed that at least one of the original Hero X-Wing miniatures had gone missing. It was not listed in studio archives and never appeared in known private collections. That mystery persisted until after the death of Greg Jean, a renowned visual effects artist and model maker. While sorting through his personal collection, friends discovered an unmarked cardboard box containing a weathered X-Wing miniature. Detailed analysis confirmed that it was the long-rumored missing Hero model. Authentication involved comparing paint patterns, weathering, scorch marks, panel lines, and component placement against original ILM reference photographs and film frames. Every detail matched, confirming it as one of only 4 Hero X-Wing miniatures built for close-up shots. Its surface wear aligned perfectly with on-screen imagery, leaving no doubt about its authenticity. The significance of this model lies in its direct role in the film's climax. The Death Star trench run defined Star Wars as a cinematic event and reshaped visual effects history. This miniature is one of the physical objects that made that sequence possible, filmed repeatedly as it was flown on motion control rigs against blue screens. When it went to auction, collectors understood that this was likely the most important Star Wars spacecraft ever to reach the open market. The Hero X-Wing miniature sold for $3,135,000 US. Darth Vader's screen-used lightsaber hilt from The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. This is the original lightsaber hilt used by Darth Vader during the filming of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. It is not a replica, a stunt casting, or a display piece. This is the primary hero prop carried by the actor and stunt performers during the lightsaber duel scenes, making it the most important weapon from the original Star Wars trilogy. The hilt was constructed by the prop department using a vintage Greyflex flash handle, a metal component originally designed for press cameras. The team modified it with additional grips, control details, and internal fittings to create the foundation of what would become the most recognizable fictional weapon in cinema. This practical, real-world construction gave the lightsaber a sense of weight and realism that translated powerfully on screen. This specific hilt was used during the filming of the duel scenes in The Empire Strikes Back and later reused for Return of the Jedi. That means it was physically present during the most iconic confrontations between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, including the revelation of Vader's true identity and the final redemption arc of the character. Few props can be tied so directly to moments that shaped the entire Star Wars saga. Authentication confirmed that this was the primary hero hilt rather than a secondary or stunt version. Wear patterns, machining marks, and modifications matched reference material from both films. The prop shows clear signs of production use, with surface wear consistent with repeated handling during choreographed fight scenes. These details were essential in establishing it as the definitive Darth Vader lightsaber. Ownership history further reinforces its importance. The hilt remained in private hands for decades before resurfacing, having never been permanently altered or rebuilt. Its survival in original condition is exceptional, especially given the intense physical use required during filming. Among Star Wars artifacts, it stands apart as a singular object tied directly to the franchise's most famous villain. When it went to auction, the lightsaber drew worldwide attention and intense bidding. It sold for $3,654,000 US.